Let's go for the actual score. Europa natural
Greetings, humanity. How you doing? Let's go for the actual score. That's what we're talking about today. The way things actually are, reality itself, objective truth. So we have a pretty small panel today. Possibly we're going to get joined by Yvonne if she can get to us. But for now, I'll just say I'm Nemo Jones in Devon, and up here we have
Derek Barlicelli. Bonjour.
And me, I'm Oscar, and I'm here with my lovely mother, Helene. She's just listening in, fly on the wall tonight. But yeah, we're here in Denmark, and yeah, it seems like it's just the three of us tonight, or the four of us.
Hey, Helene. How you doing? Cool. So yes, objective truth. So this was selected, but the chat's been I've been a little bit not very focused on the chat and everything, so I didn't manage to post up this week what people think about this subject on the Telegram group. But it obviously is a fundamental question: is how we determine what is really true, and also determine that there is such a thing as truth. So that being bearing that in mind, let's get into it. So
yeah, you nailed it there. It's those two questions, determining whether or not there is such a thing as truth, and then finding out if it's possible and how it is possible to align one's perception with it, to know what the truth is, and all of that pertains to the branch of philosophy called epistemology. That sounds very whoa, like a big word. If you break it down, it just means the knowledge of knowledge. Episteme in Greek is knowledge. So epistemology is the science of science. How do we know? Science again means knowledge. So it's all about knowing what knowledge is, and yeah, I think we should try to get our definitions on board. But I won't say too much at the beginning. I just want to say that those are the foundational questions. They are the first questions we want to ask ourselves. As soon as we ask ourselves, is there such a thing as truth? And we ask ourselves, how do we get to know truth? We can begin our journey of truth discovery, and that's what it's all about. That's the spiritual journey of learning about ourselves and the cosmos.
Yeah.
Right. There is a kind of sorry.
Sorry, go for it. Oh, just the good old you and I verse, right? And how are we conspiring with it and aligning to it for, things to just flow with the natural rhythm of life and all these things. And if we're living these falsehoods and things of the matter, we're kind of on our own subjective perspective, whimsical kind of way about looking at life, moving through life. It's not truly, you know what I mean? It's like that compared to just like understanding just the flow of reality, how the universe works, how your own mechanics works, how your psychology operates, how your thought process goes down. Things are subjective and unique to certain people, but we can observe things objectively, and that's kind of like the main point of being able to understand that you are your own unique person and vessel, individual, and you have your own eyes. No one else has that but your own, and same with with other people, right? But we all have the capability with our cerebral brain functions to view things outside of just our own perspective. We can see it through other people's perspectives, and also just like the objective perspective. And it's not always as easy as it seems, because people seem to view reality through whatever colored glasses or lenses or filters. But also there's the bias and ego attachments to things as well, and so it can be quite a conundrum of consciousness. But yeah, the main thing is to make sure that we understand just like right from wrong and the objective reality of things, so that way we understand more of the objective morality in how to behave and treat ourselves and other people, and understanding the whole cause and effects, karmic values to things, and our actions and the words we speak and the interactions that we have. It all matters. It's the solipsistic ideas and the hedonistic and the nihilistic, and even like mixed in with the modernity and all this stuff. Now it's leading people down the wrong path, and it sucks that people are kind of going through like the motions of life, and just kind of conditioned to like a mini me type of satanic mind state, at least from a couple of the tenets regarding like just service to self above anything else and all that stuff, even if it causes you to harm other people and do immoral things, right? So anyways, Nemo, I'm gonna pass it off to you. Sorry, we might have stuttered a little bit. That's on me for the Europa Natural Law YouTube channel. I might not have had it on.
Yeah.
We should be right now though. So
Yes, we are. Yeah. So I was just going to say to people on YouTube, sorry about that. There was a little glitch at the beginning, so we lost 3 or 4 minutes. But but we are here, and we are talking about objective truth. And yeah, I think it's in this distinction, subjective and objective, is kind of important to acknowledge that subjective experience is not to be undervalued. It's not to be like looked down on. It's like when we're talking about objective truth, there is a kind of balance, and there is a reality to the fact that we, to a degree, there's the kind of the new age sort of mantra is that we create our own reality. And there is a way in which this is true, but it's not the complete picture. Like so many of these kind of sort of dichotomies, it's not really one or the other. There is, well, or it's both. Let's say, there is an objective reality, and there is also a subjective reality. This is how I see it, and so it's important not to kind of dismiss either. And obviously, you mentioned Derek. You mentioned the ego, and the ego is obviously very much attached to subjective reality. It tends to attach to subjective reality, I'd say, and so we learn. So we tend to sort of protect what we perceive as reality, the subjective version, and we identify it as ourself, with the self. And so that comes down to kind of a lot of ideological baggage that people are carrying around, whatever it is, whether it's a religious mindset or a political mindset. These kind of ways of seeing the world, and we associate that with, sorry about that noise, we associate that with our ego, and so it has to be true in order for our ego, for us to feel secure in ourselves, kind of thing. So there's this kind of like false sense of security in what's actually a subjective, reality. But there is a sort of interesting kind of fundamental thing about reality, about objective reality, which is that, I touched on it at the beginning, is that there's two sort of ideas. One is the fact of objective reality, and then there's the other is what objective reality actually is. And so the first of those, like the fact of objective reality, it can be argued that requires a leap of faith to actually accept, yes, there is such a thing as objective reality that can be known. I've heard it argued that is the one sort of choice that you make, and or not. And so obviously some people don't make that choice, and they say no, nothing can really be known, and then they get into solipsism and other ways of viewing reality, which are quite ungrounded, we could say. But so there is this kind of initial step to the process of saying, I'm going to say that there is objective reality. I'm going to.
Well, I would say it's a question, like, because you can see it as a leap of faith. You can see it as like a form of belief, or like of being like of trusting, of having that, as you're putting it. I think another way of seeing it, which is not really in opposition to what you're saying, is that it's a question. It's and in that word question, you have the word quest, right? So you're deciding to move. You're saying, is there more? Like, is there more to what I'm familiar with the narrative that I currently am telling myself? And yeah, there is a faith in a way. If you're asking that question, then you are kind of saying, maybe there is something more to what I know, right? Or to what I believe. So yeah, there is that leap, that trusting, or saying implicitly, there is more. I believe there is more, and that is, you could say, a belief. But in reality, it's just a healthy mindset. Can I ask you to share some slides for me, Derek? I got some images that I feel are cool to share about this. I don't know if they're coming up. Yeah, exactly. I think this image here is funny because I think in that process of exploring, is there more to reality than what I am familiar with? One is pulling off a veil, one is pulling off a layer, and is trying to perceive. What that word means is one is trying to look through, right? And look through not only the lens that what is one's current perception, but also one is considering something else. And I think for me, that initial leap of faith, that initial belief in something that is out there, is more consideration, is considering what else is possible. So it's having an active imagination, right? And yeah, I think I want to go back to I always want to start with definitions. I think definitions are a great way to start off a conversation. and I'm so glad, first of all, that we're having this conversation, because I think it's a great topic to ask ourselves, what is truth, and how can we come to know it? And the first words I'd like to define is reality. What does it mean that something is real? What is reality? And the definition that I'm satisfied with is that reality is that which actually exists, that which is, if you will. And then the next question then is, what is truth? And then truth, I would say, is that which is an alignment with reality. So if reality is that which exists, that which actually is, and truth is that which is in alignment with what actually is, well, you can shorten that down and kind of say, well, then truth is what is. Truth is that which is. They're synonymous. But you would maybe differentiate. Let's say that for example, right now it's dark outside here where I'm at. Well, the reality is that these are the conditions, right? And me describing reality as being in these conditions, that it's dark, is true, but it's not true because I said it. I said it because like I'm trying to describe reality by speaking truth. I think that's the way I go about it. And then, yeah, perception. We want to definitely differentiate between perception and reality. Perception, again, comes from per, which means through, and then ception, which I think, like, if you look at the root of it, I'm not sure, but I think it has something to do with receive. So it's something like that you're yeah. Anyway, I can go a bit too much into the words.
Yeah, I'm thinking of inception, and there's also deception and stuff. So yeah, we're receiving some wrong truthful
exactly.
stuff.
It's so fun to
to
find out what the roots of the words are. And yeah, what are some attributes of truth and reality, which are not attributes of perception per se? Well, some of those attributes are objectivity, and objectivity means that it's not based on perception, but that it's independent of perception, right? So if something is objective, it's independent of perception. And something that is very synonymous with that, but still a bit different, is whether or not something is absolute. Absolute means that it's independent of other circumstances. So if it's absolute, well, then it's also objective, because absolute means that it's independent of other circumstances. And my perception is one circumstance, but the truth or reality is not dependent upon that circumstance, which is my perception, the way I see reality, the way I look through these eyes and my belief systems. So let's distinguish that the attribute of being absolute and objective from the attributes of being subjective or relative. What does it mean that something is subjective? Well, it's kind of like in the word, right? If it's objective, it has something to do with the object itself, and if it's subjective, it has something to do with the subject, which is like a being like me. I'm a subject in the sense that I can do things. I can go out and act, and one of the things I can do is I can perceive things. So if it's subjective, I would I'm not sure, but I would imagine that it means that it's pertaining, or like it's related to my opinion, or my my opinion, something that's related to my.
It actually means to understand. To seize or to understand.
To seize. Yeah. My mother is sharing the definition of perception, and that other part of the word that we were kind of seeing is also in the words inception and deception. It means to seize. So again, it's something to, like, you're kind of grabbing it, right? And then, yeah, relative. What does it mean that something is relative? We hear that a lot about reality. People say certain aspects of reality, or even sometimes all aspects of reality, are relative. What does it mean that something is relative? Well, it means that it's influenced by circumstances. So if absolute meant that it's independent of other circumstances, well, then we can see how that corresponds to the relative, where circumstances actually influence something. So what we want to be relative is our perception. I want to be able to speak with other people and let those those people who I speak with be able to influence my perception. Or I want to be able to look at reality, and if something changes, that, or like something happens that I didn't know, I want my perception to be relative. I want it to be able to be influenced by circumstances so that I'm not stuck. That's kind of what can happen, right? Is we feel like we've looked through the veil of reality. We've seen all there is to see, and we kind of become fanatic. Now we know, like now there's no more questions to be asked. And of course that is a caricature, but the truth in it is that we want to keep moving. Even when we do find things that are true, we want to keep challenging ourselves. We want to keep asking questions. We want to not camp on, like, in the middle of the mountain, but we want to keep moving and keep climbing, right? We want to keep learning. I'll bring up an image that I think is funny, which is this image of the rabbit. But you can also see more than a rabbit. You can also see a duck. And if you only see one of these, it can kind of like, you kind of maybe need, there's a lot of images like this where you kind of have to kind of force yourself, or like you have to make an effort in order to be able to see it differently. And when you see it, you can't really unsee it, and then you're like, wait. And those images are funny images, because they're showing something about reality, right? That our way of looking at things isn't always the only way of looking at them, and there's so much more depth to reality than just the way we're seeing things. We want to keep pushing how we see things. And yeah, that's a bit my rant. A little meme I want to share with the duck here is these two armies here. You got one army over here and another army here, and they're both saying there can be no peace until they must renounce their rabbit god and accept our duck god. And the joke is that they're both like they're both really like maybe not that different, or yeah, I don't have to explain it. You get what I'm saying. I think it's a funny image to show that the matter, like our perception can sometimes be we can be a bit too solid in them, and we want to be flexible. We want to be relative in our perception. We want not to be absolute, even though we want to align our relative perception with absolute truth. So there's the kind of like the paradox, or the challenge, if you will.
Yeah, and we got ways to resolve this paradox, right? But yeah, the dogmatic religion stuff, like the monotheistic, no, our God is the most, godliest of gods, not yours. So you got to accept ours or pay the consequences and blah fucking blah for how many centuries? This is getting hella fucking old. And we can look at these things objectively and come to the same conclusions. And people want to cry on their milk about it and defend religion and deny the crimes of it. You're not looking at things objectively, and no one's really denying your subjective truths about it, because there have been people that have been helped and sheltered by the church and this and that, and people have corrected some of their bad ways and shitty behaviors through religion and all that stuff. Most people bashing religion or whatever aren't necessarily denying that, but the crimes against humanity outweigh a fuck ton of some of these things sometimes. Like, objectively speaking, just look at these things. But yeah, Oscar. Shit, let me pull up the. Not the best on the video production today, guys. Sorry. But we got to keep it moving, right? Just how reality always keeps moving. Cool. Yeah, that'd be great to see other folks. Thanks, Nemo, for the message. We might have Tommy and Jasper coming through later on. Oh, here he is. Hell yeah. What's up, Tommy?
Hey, you hear me?
Yeah.
How you doing? All right?
Yeah, still out in Scotland.
Live from Scotland, mate. Look at my hair, man.
Yeah. If you want to get settled in, do your thing, or if you want to interrupt.
No, I wasn't going to come on, but the conversation's been pretty good.
Here we go.
And it was making me think a few things, especially when Oscar there was speaking. The thing that was coming to my mind was, with regards to objective truth, is the term truth seekers. So we're kind of in the truth movement, we like to say, don't we? So that would make us truth seekers. So that kind of implies that there's a truth out there. I'm talking generally here, not but on one specific topic. And it has to be, you have to go out your way to find it. You have to have a drive, a want, a desire. I know I've got that to discover truth with regards to what's going on in the world, how the world works, how we work, how those two things come together, and that becomes a journey. But the underpinning thing that I'm saying here is you've kind of got to know that there is objective truth, and a thing sprung to my mind when I was thinking that way. And it's in line with the truth-seeking idea. And I was actually watching something online that's nothing to do with this. It was, I like to go on and watch people debate on Speaker's Corner. Right, it gets awfully religious on Speaker's Corner, right? But you get some quite invigorating debates, and it's kind of like entertainment in a way. And a guy said something.
So people know what that is, because it's quite a unique English.
Yeah. Well, Speaker's Corner is it's in London in Hyde Park. Speaker's Corner, and it's been designated a free speech zone, which but the implication of that is everywhere else there's no free speech, you know. So it's like, you know, make of that what you will, you know. And people like believe that that's okay, where the truth is that's not okay, you know. But nevertheless, that it does exist, and people go down there and they have those the debates and stuff. And a guy said something, and it links to me talking about being a truth seeker and having that sort of conviction that there is objective truth out there. And he was talking to somebody who was coming from a very subjective point of view. And he asked the guy a question, and the question was, before humans discovered Mount Everest, what was the highest mountain in the world? Which is a trick question, right? And the guy he asked the question was going, I don't know, Kilimanjaro, K2, and he kept on rhyming off all these other mountains, and he just couldn't see what the guy was trying to tell him. And obviously the guy was trying to tell him, said, it doesn't matter that Mount Everest hasn't been discovered yet. It was still the highest mountain in the world, right? So therein lies the analogy is there is objective truth. But we don't come into this world knowing. We're not all knowing. We have to seek it, you know. And that's where I was bringing up the truth seeker thing. I think Oscar was kind of moving his discussion in that direction. Am I right, Oscar? You were kind of alluding to that a little bit, which made me want to jump on.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah. So the thing is as well, like there's a lot of subjects where there's going to be different opinions on what is the objective truth, which would suggest that there's debate around, have we found objective truth in certain areas, you know? And I like what you were saying earlier on as well. People like to find comfortable truths. And that's what you were talking about with the whole religion thing there, Oscar. People just get a truth and land on it. It suits them. It makes them feel comfortable. They can kind of use it as a bit of a crutch. I kind of see a lot of religious belief that way, but not all. I'm not making a sweeping statement about religion. There's a lot of people get a lot out of religions, and there's truth in religions as well. But what I'm saying there is, like you were talking about, Oscar, going like halfway up the mountain and stopping. You know, so some people will find like religious truths or a political truth, whatever it is they decide to land on, and they kind of stop their journey because it's easy to stop their journey because they've got something that they're satisfied with. That'll do. That answers it for me. Don't have to go any further. I'll plant my flag. I'll plant my rabbit flag here. All you duck guys doesn't really matter anymore because I've decided that this is the truth. And the seeking hasn't ended for them, but they have decided that it's ended for them. It's a lifelong quest,
But
man.
our superpower is also that we can admit when we see that actually our previous way of looking at things was limited. And I think that's
Correct.
what this little video we had the honor of speaking with a new member of the forum last Sunday named Christian. He sent us a little video that
Was that blue in the acid? Yeah, that's the one.
50 seconds long, and maybe it's like, oh, that's a beautiful blue cylinder, and the other guy says, hey grandma, are you colorblind? Clearly a red cylinder, go see a doctor. And then they switch sides, right? And then the guy says, oh, I just perceived one side, I was wrong, please excuse my rudeness. And she's like, I forgive you, I was wrong too, my perception was wrong, I should have gathered more data before making such statements. And here you can see that when he's standing there, he can see the blue side of the cylinder, but the blue side isn't the truth. That's just his perception. And we can align our perception to the objective truth through the trivium method. And I'd love to get more into the methodology as well of how do we, I'll just close down the window here. How do we proceed to find out what is true? Of course, first we need to, in our own minds, not fall for the trap of believing there is no such thing, right? We want to, how can you say, like, we want to realize that there is more than just my perception, and that realization is the overcoming of the ideology of solipsism. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that. I think there's also this meme here about it here. I don't know if you can share it, Derek.
Yeah, of course. And I know I briefly mentioned solipsism. I thought, Nemo, you were keen on talking about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think like, it's a good thing for people to know about that. This is something that has a name. There's a name for the belief that we all have, like, that our perception is truth, that we all have our legitimate perception, and there is no singular reality that we should all strive to approach or move closer to with our perception. This is the meme that says we all have our own truth, and the bit cocky person responds, yeah, we all have our own laws of physics, right? Like I have my own law of gravity over here, and you have your own law of thermodynamics and so on. That's silly. It's and I think it's also very provocative for a lot of people to deal with that. But there is also the truth that we just saw in that video, which is that there's multiple perspectives to for example, the cylinder, and the truth is also there's more than two, right? That's where this meme here that you shared, Derek, is really cool. It shows that there isn't just two ways of looking at things. There's multiple, but there is also false perceptions. There's also ways of looking at reality that do not align with truth. So we should not say that any perception of reality is true. And I think that's something we, as freedom seekers or truth seekers in the truth movement, we need to also kind of acknowledge that one of these arguments that is thrown at us a lot, which is that we believe we know better than the experts, or we know better than the authorized teachers on certain subjects. Well, there is truth in that we should have a humble approach to what is our knowledge and what is our opinion, right? Not everything that we think is true. And yeah, I think that's what this meme kind of doesn't really show, but it does show this thing that there's multiple sides to reality. And yeah, our goal, that's also funny that the word objective is also the word for the goal, right? What is the objective? What are we aiming for? Hey, Jasper, welcome.
Right, Jasper?
Hello, can you guys hear me well?
Yep.
Yeah, buddy.
I'll keep on listening.
How's it going out there in Frisia?
Yeah, intense, but yeah, it's all right. Been relaxing a lot. So I feel better, quite health, but my mental state is it's a bit. It's been a rough time, but I was intercepting you, Oscar. I'll let you speak before I'll talk about objective myself. Yeah,
I don't want to speak too much. I have a lot to say, so I kind of need to.
Yeah, you already had a turn, man.
Yeah.
Shit. I'm just kidding. Doesn't matter, man. Roundtables turn as they wish. But yeah, Nemo, go for it if you wanted to say something there. I got plenty.
Yeah, it's an interesting it's kind of, there's a circular nature, I think, to it, because you want to reach objective truth, but like, how do you know for sure when you've reached objective truth? Even however, because obviously, we have the trivium method. You gather all the grammar, but then you've actually gathered all the grammar, to go back, then the whole load just suddenly arrives, and you're like, oh. So it is interesting, and I think part of the experience that we've been through, probably to get to where we are, is this questioning of what we thought was true. And there's that great definition of enlightenment, is the discarding of everything that we thought was true. I think someone's getting a bit of feedback from someone. If maybe mute if you're not speaking. It does feel like it's a kind of infinite search, in a way, that it's not something that you're going to arrive at and you're going to be like, right, I've arrived, now the journey's over. It's like, what would that be? That would sort of be like godhood or whatever. It's like, it's
But our objective isn't omniscience. We're not going for knowing everything, and in that way, yes, our seeking or our search or our journey for knowing more, it does not end. We will always have more to learn, but there is such a thing as having learned the basics of something and knowing that, and there is such thing as reaching, like, as going through a threshold, right? There is, you can have knowledge of self, of psychology, you can have knowledge of how reality operates, without that meaning that you know everything about those two things, about the self and about the universe. You can have some basic knowledge, and that is a goal we want to strive for. We don't want to say, well, we can't know everything, so what's the point, right? I'm
Yeah,
kind
of course.
advocate.
I think it's more about having a shared understanding. That's what's really important for us as a, you know, as people, because, you know, for example, let's take a sort of fundamental, like a given that most people can agree on as an objective reality, like time. You know, it's kind of like, it seems to have this kind of reality to it, but it's like when you really start to think about what time is and what the sort of laws of time really are, it can start to feel quite odd, you know, like, well, why, you know, is time really constant, like everywhere in the universe? Is that, you know, these kind of questions? It's like, if we have to reach some kind of an understanding that is really functional. You know, it's so that we can work together. That's really the importance of
And I think when we're trying to explore these, and there's no such thing as a dumb question. All questions are great, but when we're exploring the fact which postmodernism really you know, outlined very well, is that our perceptions, or like our ways of doing science, is really influenced a lot by the culture we grew up in. So, for example, back to time, our perception of time, our way of measuring time, and like, yeah, following the rhythms of nature and so on, they're very much conditioned by our culture, right? So what we want to be careful not to do is say, because we don't want to make the mistake of believing that because our perception is conditioned by our culture, then the reality that we are perceiving is conditioned by our culture. So another way of saying that is, we don't want to believe that the truth is relative just because our perception is. And that's where I can only say hallelujah or agree to what you're saying, Nemo, about there are some basic things that we want to arrive at a shared understanding of. Maybe it's okay that we have different ways of following the rhythms of life, for example, with time. But when it comes to things such as morality, then we don't want to be relative in our understanding. We want to have an absolute understanding of morality.
Right. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of like there's a kind of philosophical impulse, you know, to which is, you know, to understand everything in a way. You know, that's the sort of, it leads in that direction. Oh, it's the I want to know more. I want to keep going until I can understand everything, kind of thing. Even if it's impossible, that's the kind of impulse. But when we're talking about objective truth, and our understanding of it, it's really more of a functional sort of purpose that's serving. It's like, well, if we can all agree on a certain amount, you know, then we can move forward. We have a basis of understanding. We have a foundation of working together, you know, that's going to be cohesive and that's going to last. That, you know, and that's really the kind of purpose of it that's actually more important than the sort of pure philosophical kind of aspect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It does to be. I think what you're saying is there's certain truths that if we all come to understand and basically are in agreement that they are objectively true, then we can function properly together as a society because we all have them on board. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we're all falling into extreme subjectivity on everything, as that's a tendency of postmodernism, and definitely that happens with solipsism. Everything, to put it quite frankly, goes to shit. Do you know what I mean? Because like it's as if there is no objective truth, and people can, how do you say this? They think they can operate in the world any way they want, and it doesn't really matter if society's not functioning, culture's not functioning, human beings aren't functioning in a way that's conducive to a sort of collective evolution of consciousness even.
Yeah.
And that's where we're kind of in just now. We're in that kind of downward spiral of that, because it's becoming really, really common for people to believe that their subjective reality is all that matters. And that's why you hear so many of these phrases being flung about these days, like, well, it's true for me. And people will even affirm that with other people, and will tell them, if it's true for you, then that's all that matters. Like, no, that's not all that matters. You know what I mean? It's not at all. Because it's just that true chaos starting to build within society. And I think that's what Nemo's alluding to. With regards to like wanting to know, like that human drive to know more and to know more and to know more until you get to the absolute truth, which is unattainable. What you're really getting into there is you're getting into the like the end goal of enlightenment, really, which is kind of what we're all hoping for. You know, like we talked about earlier on, like people, also you were saying this sort of freedom movement, we realise that there is different ways to look at things and be open-minded enough to change our perception when the evidence says that you should change your perception. I mean, that's a lot of people can't do that. So that's like getting your ego under control to be able to do that. And to do that's going to involve things like shadow work. And right there, you're on the evolution of consciousness path. You're on the enlightenment path, just in them couple of things I just said there. So there's a lot of things linking in together here. And I might not be linking them very well. I'm just kind of flinging things out there loosely and hoping you guys are going to pick it up and put a thread right through the middle of it. But I do get what you're saying, Nemo. That there has to be a consensus of some sort, or you are in the realm of things just going into complete mayhem and chaos.
Kind of like in modern times with the fundamental axioms of truth, like what is a man, what is woman? All of a sudden we don't fucking know now what the hell is going on, you know?
Yeah, and that was already came to, the consensus was already came to with that, wasn't it, Derek? So now that's actually been reeled back in. So that's like regression.
Well, I mean, the whole argument is that it's oppressive, that describing reality as being like describing reality in a way where one says this way of describing reality is the true way, that is seen as oppressive, as being well, like it could be, you could say that it's like it's coming from a place of fear, that you're not open to reality if you're describing reality in a way where you're saying that way of describing reality is the true way. That's how it's being put forth, right? And of course, yeah, science doesn't really work that way. Science is all about having the means to describe reality in a correct way, or maybe it's not all about that, but that is it's a big part of science, is being able to also communicate to others what is true, and that is where we find examples. Maybe you can bring up my meme, Derek? We can find
Make it quick,
people
man,
who are like you know, they get really triggered when you show them that their way of describing reality is not consistent. The most clear example of that is saying it's true that there isn't such a thing as truth. It's never said like that. It's always said there is no such thing as truth. And people don't even notice that they're making a claim of truth. And when you point that out, they're like, they're like, oh, why are you, you know, why are you being aggressive, kind of, even? And maybe that's
the objection right there, Oscar.
Like you're being aggressive, but maybe they're saying you're being very narrow-minded or something to that effect. When the fact is, truth is like this finger, it doesn't give a shit about you. Like it's this train moving and smashing your beliefs. And what we really want to understand is that when people present facts and evidence, they're not smashing you, and they are not claiming to be the truth. They're just presenting something that they have come to understand. And because we are all intelligent beings, we can all arrive at that discovery. It's not about who discovered it first. I don't know. Maybe it was Vuk. Yeah, I think it was Vuk last Sunday. He brought up the metaphor of I don't know how it's called, like stafette, like where people run with a stick and then they give the stick to the next person. It's like an Olympic game. And
Yeah.
how
Relay race.
well, I know it was not that metaphor. It was the metaphor of a marathon. That was the metaphor, that we're all going, like we're all aiming for the same goal, and it's not really about who comes first necessarily, right? It's about reaching that goal of aligning ourselves to truth. And when it comes to understanding that that is not a goal that one just attains and then that's it, and then one now holds the truth. That's not how it works. I completely agree. That's not what it is. It's a constant maintenance, right? We're maintaining our, you could say, like, if you want to use hippie terms, we're maintaining our high frequency, high vibration, by, like, if you see your perception as a wave, well, then the higher the frequency, the more it's aligning with truth. And that's what we're going for. We're not going for the mind of God and knowing everything. We're going for being as close to the truth as possible, so that we can groove with it, so that we can work with it. And that's, I think, what aligning to natural law is all about, is being so in tune with how things really work and how our own psychology operates, that we're becoming magicians. I don't know if you still got the tarot cards in front of you, Derek, but in that card there's the individual who is having an arm above and below, so he's being like that that bridge, if you will, of the different, like the big universe, and also the individual, the psychology of the self, right? And he's got all the elements arrayed in front of him, or her, if it's the other gender, of course. And yeah, people can identify with how they like. This isn't really about saying that you have to perceive reality this way. It's about saying, how am I perceiving reality, and can I keep moving? Can I move forward in my understanding? And I think this graph here is a perfect example of it, right? It's kind of like the iceberg, where you have the huge unknown, which is, in this graph, it's green, that you don't know. It's what you don't know, you don't know. It's what I don't know, I don't know. It's everything that I have never explored or given thought to. But there's also what I know that I don't know, right? I know that I don't know a lot about martial arts, or I know that I don't know a lot about printing books, or this kind of thing. There's fields of knowledge that I don't know a lot about, but it's all about making this area, what I know that I don't know, bigger, so that I can start knowing more about it. So yeah, I think this is a cool graph about, there's what we know, and then there's what we know, what we don't know that we know. Well, okay, this one is a bit silly. It's like when someone is explaining something to you, and then you're going like, okay, yeah, I never thought that was the name for it, right? I don't know what that an example of that could be.
Hey, Oscar, I'm gonna cut in, I think, because I'm just realizing Jasper's not spoken, so it is all right for me to cut in across that. Yeah.
Of course. Go ahead.
Jasper, do you want to?
Sure, I could just say a few things, because for me, I come from like the angle of like John Vervaeke. I mentioned also in the comments, he speaks about like transjective instead of objective. And another issue is as well as the objective often has people have like biases by which they are not able to see things as they really are, because they like some of you also mentioned with like the truth and like sticking to it because it's comfortable. I think Tommy said that, but that is a bias, and this biases is often like we all have biases. That's something to be aware of, that that not everything is as clear as we like to see it as. So that's I think also truth requires humility, therefore, a lot as well. But I don't have that much to say, because I did think about like a saying that there is in Frisian. That's like Frisians don't really say everything they know, but they know everything they say. So like that's why I try to keep it short, because I don't want to say everything I know about objective truth, because it's so like it's a lot that there is in the world. You cannot name it all out. So instead, what I've said this far, I know by my heart that it's true. But it's not the. I'm not saying it's the truth. That's like it's not. That's something that's also another issue, is the imposement of truth, saying that I recognize this as the truth, but I'm not saying it for somebody else. I'm saying it for myself. I cannot. I can only verify my own perspective, or the way that I see the world. So another thing is also that's like another type of philosophy. It's called perspectivism, which means that everybody has some level of truth. Nobody, like myself included, I don't have the full picture. I see a certain part of it, and I can share that, and that's what I can offer. But I'm not saying this is the entire truth. So I don't believe there can be any person, any guru, or any someone that says like I know it all and this is the entire truth. But I think that you can have a larger view on a greater whole, but it's never a complete picture, because you always have these biases or like limitations of your mind to see the truth as it really is, because it's so much more bigger than what fits into our brains. That's my take on it.
Thanks.
Right on.
I was just going to say something. Sorry, my pen around. I was going to say something about about belief, and the thing that it really it's spiritual. You know, this question about this, like, the sort of facts, and facts don't care about your feelings, that kind of thing. That and the this readiness, or it's a kind of spiritual. It's like it's more of the heart, like what you really want to understand, or what your goal is, what your aim is in, let's say, in a conversation. Are you wanting to understand the truth, get nearer to the truth, or are you wanting to protect your beliefs and your ego that you've built up? And this is, sadly, this is the world that we're in. I mean, we've alluded to this. It's like, this is what ideology is really. I think, I'd say that all ideology really is a kind of an armor, of belief. It's like, well, I don't need to think, I don't need to like pursue truth, because I have this impenetrable kind of thing, outfit, that protects me, and I can just, and anything that comes in is just going to be waved away, because I have belief, and that's this is like a deep spiritual issue, problem, for all of us, because this is what we're really facing, is people with beliefs, people with ideologies, people with
Yeah, and it's uncomfortable, right? It's that's where people speak about cognitive dissonance. If you're presenting a perspective
is-
that is just so different from what I believe, and I need, in order to take in what you're saying, be able to kind of put aside what I believe, and then maybe even later on have to kind of kill that part of me that believes in that, or like let go of that belief. That's just uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's incredibly uncomfortable, and you know, we've all probably, I think, experienced this where you challenge something with, you know, a simple fact or whatever, you know, and then the conversation has ended. You know, the person has just gone because it was that uncomfortable that they weren't able. You thought you were having a conversation with someone. You know, I've experienced this a lot of times online, for example, you know, where you think you're having a conversation. It seems that you're having a rational conversation. And then when your conversation gets too rational and it really is like smashing into the beliefs of the other person, you know, and you're being polite, it's not like you're hammering at them, but it's just like, well, here's the actual rational argument, and I'm honing it for the to get the point across, and then the person's gone. They've just gone because that's easy to do online, you know, or even in real life, people will say, I can't talk to you anymore, you know, and they've just gone because they can't.
Yeah. Sorry, I told you a few weeks ago, my neighbour walked out on me.
Right.
My Christian neighbour who was trying to make me a Christian, and I just started questioning Christianity, and just lightly, you know. And I'll tell you what I questioned. I questioned the Jesus dying for your sins, part of Christianity. I questioned that, right? And my neighbour, who's a really, really, really nice guy, he done the whole stand-up thing. I don't think I can talk to you anymore. I think it's about time I left. No, the like, the like overly offended thing, and I'm like, my God, I was just like,
that was nothing.
Quite a light, not even that deep. I just questioned one of the things that you believe in, because it was only because he was trying to get me to believe in it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, well, this is why I'm not jumping on your invitation to become a Christian, because, well, for one, this thing. Yeah. And then, so, you know, he's put his jacket on and wanting to leave, you know. But what somebody said, I can't remember who said, I'll be quite quick here, right, about being comfortable in their beliefs, and to hark back to me talking about being on like a truth discovery journey. I think it's safe to say that everybody here had that realization that there was things not right in the reality in which we live, right? And then that's when you start to question things, and that's when you start to seek. And it's all led us to where we're sitting just now. And that is the whole truth-seeking journey that we've all been on. And everything we've talked about, religious beliefs, political beliefs, subjective reality, solipsism, the whole gender question and all that stuff, that is what that's all the milieu of the stuff that was floating around us till we eventually went, what's going on here? And kind of put our heads above the parapet and went, this is crazy. You know, and then in that, I don't know what it was like for you, but for me, it was that point I went, there's something else that I need to know, because this isn't it. And therein lay the first footsteps of my truth-seeking journey. But it does for me also link back to loads of shows that this group's done already. I think a show that really jumps out when you talk about putting your ego aside. We talked about like being in cognitive dissonance. This group actually had a show called Are We a Cult?, which is a great testament to the group that we had the wherewithal to actually stop and say, well, if we're going to question everything else, we should be able to have a look at where we're at as well and assess if that is true as well. And I think that's an essential part of being somebody that's seeking the truth. And I'm on a bit of a rant,
You asked,
and I'm on a bit of a rave here. So I'll let somebody else come. I wasn't going to come on tonight, but it's turned out to be an excellent topic. It's went and
No, I think you
so-
contributed some really cool things, and I'd like to
Yeah,
add
man.
a bit
Jesus
on to
Christ,
what you're
dude.
saying
Fucking-
about the when it comes to the whole, you know, the my truth, and I kind of alluded to it before when I spoke about postmodernism, Tommy, how postmodernism, well, what it kind of did, even though yes, it's true that our perception and our ways of doing science is totally conditioned by our culture. That's what we saw with the claims of truth made in the with the racist science that that was done, you know, about like how the Negro man, he's not as intelligent as the Caucasian man, right? All of that, all of those claims of truth. Well, that's a perfect example of how, you know, we're biased by our culture. So what postmodernism did, well, which was good, is that it showed us this. It deconstructed our idea that we're fucking objective in our way of doing science. But it went so far and deconstructed the metaphysical existence of truth, or like our foundation, which is that there is such a thing as truth. And that's how we got to this thing of there's my truth, or, well, there's no actually basis for saying that there's the biological truth of for example, gender that we have today. And it's such a hot topic. It's an easy way to you know, distance people, but it's just to give some reference that postmodernism gave us kind of something great, which is to acknowledge our own biases, right? But it's also went so far to say that there is no such thing as truth, and deconstructed that. And yeah, I mean, we really chose a topic this time here, just objective truth. That is, it's such a great topic to explore. I'm so happy we got to speak about it. And it's of course related to knowledge, knowing truth. And when people think of knowledge, they might not realize that there's more ways of going about it. It's not just learning through induction. That's the main way people think of, right? It's you observe something. I think I actually even have like you observe something, and then you formulate a hypothesis, and then when you've kind of made thought of a way of testing your hypothesis, when you thinking, well, if what I believe about what I'm observing is true, then I can test that like this. Then when you've done enough testing, you can start to develop a theory which your tests or your experiments are supporting, and then you can start even making predictions. That's what people think of as science, right? The induction method. You're seeing something and you're asking questions about it and trying to describe reality that way. But there's also, and that's what we're doing here tonight, right? Is that we're kind of like the round table, and in the middle here, I don't think there is, but if you imagine that there's, well, in this case there's like a mandala, but in some cases you could also imagine that it's like the Holy Grail, which could represent the truth that all these of these knights they're striving for, right? And by sitting around the round table and sharing perspectives with each other, they can arrive closer to that mandala. They can see it from different perspectives by talking to each other. And that's kind of one of the beautiful superpowers we have, is as humans, is we're able to come closer to reality by talking together. It's not just humans, we see it in nature, of course, as well. But yeah, I think that's something we want to remember, is that is something we can arrive at way quicker when we're in it together, when we're sharing our view. And that's not to say I can't have a totally messed up view, which is not going to be relevant to the further development of science. But yeah, we're all able to contribute, as you were saying before, Jasper. knowing with our hearts that what we're saying is true, right? When we're not deceiving others. So that's one way, is through deduction, is through realizing, if I know this is true and I know this other thing is true, then I can also arrive by deducing. I can arrive at knowledge by not only through induction, but also by doing like the math, if you will. Like I can recognize that there's no other possibility. I think the Sherlock Holmes quote goes a bit like that: you can eliminate every other possibility when you say, well, that's impossible, then the only thing that remains, even though it's improbable, is the only thing that's possible, and then you've deduced yourself to truth. That's Sherlock Holmes's way of arriving at truth. And then
that's
to kind of reference to the topic we were speaking about last time, which was healing. With enough healing, you can start trusting your own intuition some more. So that's a third way of arriving at knowledge, of arriving at truth, is through trusting our own selves and the gut feelings we have. But yeah, that does require a significant amount of healing, because you can also believe something is your intuition when in fact it's not. Yeah.
Can I hark back? I know me and Oscar are kind of taking over this discussion a little bit, but just I want to hark back to what you said about postmodernism earlier on when you were talking. I'm not going to kid on that I'm a student of postmodernism. I'm not. But you said something that linked into what Nemo said earlier on when you were saying how the racist point of view that the Western society in particular held not that long ago got changed because of postmodern thinking. That's kind of what Nemo was saying as well, because like that's something that everybody is, well, most people, enough people are on board with to make a positive forward movement, and as a species, an upward trajectory move, and that's due. So yeah, postmodernism has got the positive side to it. I just wanted to point that out, and it made me think of something that Jordan Peterson actually said when he was criticising postmodernism, and he said it gets to a point where, yeah, anything can be true, anything can be interpreted as true, but it's got to be something that can be iterated over and over again and have positive results. You know, so like for example, just to hark on Jordan Peterson, he talks about the Cain and Abel story a lot. You could interpret that as in it's okay to kill your brother, and that's where postmodernism kind of goes a bit mad, you know, because like that's not going to iterate well down the line, is it? So I don't know why I'm bringing all this up. You just got me thinking, Oscar. You just got me thinking off the top of my head. But you did link into what Nemo was saying earlier on. And the thing with the Mandela as well, didn't like Mandela's in the floors of like cathedrals and stuff, just a slight sort of thing I picked up on. Would they not use as like meditative tools? Like the kind of maze-shaped Mandalas, and you would just walk them and walk them and walk them. It's a sort of active, meditative, contemplative, kind of links into your whole intuition flex that you had at the end there, Oscar. Sorry, my thinking's not that joined up tonight, guys. I'm just flinging things out.
I love it. I love it.
No one brought up my Mandela. What the hell, yo? But anyways, in conclusion, right, because it's about that time of the hour, I believe, right, Nemo? Yeah, we have to avoid this whole the my truth stuff and just being malignant to what is actually objectively true, the isness and all this stuff, which can coexist with people's subjective perspectives. Oscar, you mentioned, you know, like the frequency, and it's too bad we don't have Chris Nelson's cool slide on that. But yeah, it goes back to the law of polarity, and I mentioned this in at least one or two of just how they mention, especially folks that are familiar with the Kabbalion, that all truths are but half truths in what they're talking about, because it was not. And also, people have to understand, like the Hermetica, it's pretty fucking ancient, and it was written a long time ago. They were using a different set of language, not the same way we use English today per se. Not every single word, and they would use different nuances possibly. And so, anyways, keeping that in mind, understand that it was truths plural, lowercase. They were specifically referencing people's subjective perspectives and truths, but they have truth, pretty much like at the next sentence or whatever. I don't memorize these things, but that they are talking about objective truth. Jeez. I've said it better in previous episodes, but yeah, I'm all over the place because I wanted to just piggyback real quick on like understanding objective truth, especially when you're trying to heal yourself and probably doing the proper diagnoses. The diagnosis, the way to know knowledge to find the causal factor to heal that shit for fucking real, right? And that brings knowledge versus belief, right? I've even did a hip hop mix. I think Tommy might have seen that, or it was the other one the other night. Forget, but I just went into this many times before because it's like years old. I've been doing these types of videos, but like, and Mark Passio talks about it as well. Belief can be seen as the enemy of knowledge, right? And we could see in context of this conversation, belief being the subjective truth and perspective versus like knowledge being the objective truth. Yet, of course, people have their own, my truth isms about these things. And also people that have come to certain profound truths and all that speak a little bit too much in absolutes. So we really do have to take it to the trivium and refine the rhetoric over and over and over again, because it's boring to hear people just talk about like the mainstream media, they lie about everything, every single thing. They didn't even get the dates or the time right, or the weather or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, so like to think 100% is fucking falsified information being broadcasted that's backed by billions of dollars is fucking stupid, and it kind of makes you look not the most credible person to listen to. And anyone out there listening, we're not expecting anyone out there to believe us. Everyone has to come to their own proper conclusions about objective truth and align their subjective perspective to that, right? So I guess that's all I got. And avoid that emotional mind control, because that is coupled with this ego attachment that clings on to these falsities and what we think we thought was this absolute or objective truth and all this stuff, right? So our bias and egoisms can bleed into what we think is objective truth. So you really have to take the time and be the hermits to step back as far as you can outside of all influences around you and within yourself, to see things from that objective lens as best possible, and hey, you might have to suspend your beliefs on these things and check that different perspective, right? So all those tower cards, but nobody escapes the law. And we might speak about truths and it might be objective. It doesn't mean that it's our truth. No one owns truth. It's just the isness, right? So make it part of your daily business, and make sure that others bear witness to your spiritual fitness. Thank you all.
Cheers. Jasper, did you have any last thoughts?
Well, what the cards is, there's like a god in Frisia, like back in the day, it was called Fawcetti, and it was god of justice. So that was something that sparked up. But now I don't have that much to say left. Only that like what is truth is also, I believe it's changing over time. So I don't believe in a fixed truth. Like it's a paradox, of course. It's a half truth, like Derek says, that it's not changing, but it's also not fixed. It's difficult to comprehend with the mind thereby. But I think, yes, like I think Oscar said in the beginning something to this effect, that like you could, the truth, like it's not like, oh, now you found it and that's it. Like it goes on. It's a continuous thing. It refines, and while you're finding the truth, you're also creating the truth in a new way. That's how I see it. At least it's something very creative. But yeah, I don't know what else I can say. I think I need to like ponder it more. But for myself, truth is more beyond what I can say. So I don't feel really like I have to say quite a lot about it, because it's quite obvious. Truth is, like in Dutch, waarheid, and waarnemen means to, like, waarnemen means to see. So you're taking the what is true, and taking that. So if I'm just looking at this laptop right now, or whatever it is, that's already truth. So I not necessarily need to put it into any box of like, this is the way that I conceive as truth, but just the truth is, as Derek said as well, is it's what is. So maybe I think a lot of what I will say, you guys might already know. So I'll just keep it at this, for if that's all right.
Okay, well, thanks everyone, and yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. I just want to put a note of skepticism about postmodernism. I'm not sure that I mean, maybe I don't know. It's not something I've studied a lot, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like the fact that some positive things might have happened alongside it, wouldn't necessarily.
Well, I
say.
mean, it's again with the half truths that Derek was saying, right? That there's some of it, but often we have to be able to distinguish. So, for example, with pragmatism, it's the idea that everything that is that works for us is true, right? And well, that also is dangerous. You wanna be careful with that. So yeah, with these different theories of knowledge, or these different views on, and it's super. That's why I love this topic. Let's make epistemology great again, if you will. Let's have these conversations and explore the different ways of going about how to find truth, but not get stuck on one way. Because if we get stuck in postmodernism, or if we get stuck in pragmatism, or in positivism, or skepticism, or these different ways of going about it, we might not be able to expand our mind to the fullest. Sorry for jumping in. I just want to say, yeah, it's not dangerous to look into postmodernism and what that kind of those theories are about. But it might be a bit tiring, but it might still be worth it. We can get something out of it, and then move forward, right? Take what we can. I don't know. Yeah, I'll zip it.
All right. Thank you all. If you're watching this, we've got 111 followers on YouTube. It's a nice number, but you might want to boost that up, and you might want to like this, comment, all of that kind of stuff. Maybe not. It's up to you. And we'll be back next week. I don't think we settled on a topic for next week. So that's that. There's plenty of stuff in the description, including a link to our Telegram channel where we have discussions going on during the week. And I think that's all I really need to say. So thanks, everyone. And I'll see you next week on Europa Natural Law.